Mbita District, Suba, Homa Bay County, which was formerly known as Nyanza Province, Kenya, East Africa. Right now I reside at Nairobi, where I run a small law firm called Rakoro and Company Advocates, which is my law firm, as I am an advocate by profession. I was born 45 years ago at Kiwari village, that is in Mfangano Island. I did my Sanadi 1 at Mfangano Island, but from Sanadi 2 onwards, I had the privilege of being taken over by one of my cousins, with whom I stayed outside of Mfangano, and then did my primary schooling, secondary schooling with him, and then proceeded to India, where I did Bachelor of Commerce and Bachelor of Laws, that is BCom and LLB. My family stays at Kiwari village. I am the firstborn in my family amongst the boys, but there was a girl who was older than me. Kiwari as a school, a primary school, which derives the name from the village, the school is called Kiwari Primary School. The school began in the year 1995, when, due to a need to have a local school, because the next school was about 3 kilometers away, the community saw it fit to donate a piece of land to the government where the school is located, about 200 to 300 meters from the lakeside. That is, Mfangano Islands is in Lake Victoria. The school started with nursery, Sanadi 1, Sanadi 2, and Sanadi 3. But over the years, they managed to add one extra class as years went by, until 2003, when the first Sanadi 8 sat for what we call the Kenya Certificate for Primary Education, Sanadi 8. Over the years, Kiwari Primary School has managed to do well in the academic field. Within the division, that is Mfangano division, which has about 16 primary schools, Kiwari Primary School has managed to be number 1 twice, number 2 thrice, number 3 twice, and number 7 and 8 once. And that's an academic achievement that is attributed both the local community and the teaching staff. Right now, Kiwari Primary School has about 11 government teachers and 4 teachers that are employed by the Parents Teachers Association, or PTA, who are paid directly by or through or with the money contributed by the parents. Yes, that is basically for the primary school. I would say in terms of infrastructure, the school right now has classes from baby class, nursery, pre-unit, and then Sanadi 1 to Sanadi 8. It also has what we call a staff room for the teachers. It has a small kitchen. But some of these are makeshift. They are not, or they are what we call temporary structures. They are not permanent structures. Yes, that is for the school. The number of students maybe from baby class to standard 8 is about 250 to 300. Some come in, some leave. So less between 250 to 300. The headmaster is called Mr. Walter Bunde. He has been there from the year 2006 up to date. And then the chairman of the Parents Teachers Association is called Mr. Agustin Ginara Unyonyi. And by the grace of God, I am the patron of the school. Yes.
You have talked about the school. Oh, okay. What difficulties do the children at the school undergo as they learn when they come to school? What do you think is the most
the hardships or the problem areas that they have?
Yes.
Now, as I've said, one critical area, one critical hardship is infrastructure. Infrastructure, we mean the facilities within the school. As I've said, in Kenya we have what we call the free primary school policy, introduced by the government in the year 2003, where the government took over the responsibility of ensuring that schools are equipped in terms of books, majorly, or stationery. But again, that is not enough. The government has been doing that with the help of money gotten locally and also from donors across the world. And sometimes because of misuse or lack of proper planning, this money does not reach the schools in good time. Every school has a particular location depending on the number of the pupils that are in the school. But in Kenya we have a budget every June of every year. So our financial year in Kenya starts from June to June. But schools open up in January. So before the budgets are done and financial money is allocated, there's that gap where students have a problem of getting books and other stationery that they need. So parents have to chip in. The second thing is that in as much as there's free primary education, it is only free in terms of tuition fees. It is the responsibility of the local community to ensure that the school is well equipped in terms of classrooms. You have to pay the watchman, do your own fencing, do your own electricity, and as a community, the Kiwale community, which is basically fishermen oriented, because the majority of people there are fishermen by occupation, we have tried to do that. We have tried to build classrooms. We have had to do a funds drive twice. We managed to raise about 200,000 Kenya shillings, and that has helped to build about 3 classrooms. There's a time we had donation from Kenya Charity Sweepstake and from the local MP, which enabled us to do about 2 more classrooms. So we are short of standard 1, standard 8, 3 more classrooms. We are also short of classrooms in the lower baby class to nursery or to pre-unit. Some of the structures that we have, yes, are there, but they are dilapidated. They need renovation or to be pulled down and built afresh. That is infrastructure. In fact, as we speak now, the teachers don't have a staff room. What they are using as a staff room is a class that should have been standard 7. But because teachers also must have somewhere to sit and organize their work, they have converted one classroom into a staff room. Power. Mfangano is when we are receiving electricity. The government has put up a power station within the island, generator power station, but the power has not reached Kiwale. So it forced some of us to go into our pockets and bring in solar system. The school is lit using solar system, but it has not gone to all the classrooms. We have only managed to do so from standard 5 to standard 8. So we need also still power. That might come, even if it comes, the government will only bring the poles. and the electricity wires. Ensuring that the power reaches the school, that is the responsibility of the parents and the school.
And the parents of the island, most of them are not working, right?
Most of them, as I've said, are fishermen by occupation. So they have no gainful employment. They are not employed somewhere and they are paid. They just depend on the lake. And the lake right now is not doing very well. Fish stock has depleted. In fact, most boats, we had about, there's a time there were about 50 to 100 boats within the island. Right now, within Kiwari, right now, there are only 2 boats or 3 boats that are doing regular business. So again, farming has not done very well, and the farming that we are doing there is not for cash crop, it's only for subsistence. So parents don't have, there's no enough income to sustain the school the way it should be sustained by the parents. The other hardship is in terms of, or shortage is in terms of teachers. The government employs teachers, but in Kenya today, we have a shortfall of 60,000 teachers. That is across the country, 60,000. Kiwari, as I said, we have about 11 teachers employed by the government. We need 6 to 7 more. So there's a shortfall of about 6-7 teachers. And that has forced us, or the parents, to go back into our pockets and employ teachers by unemployed teachers. And again, as we have said, there is no proper income. So it has become a little bit of a strain to ensure that these teachers are paid in good time. The other problem we have is that this is a community school, and as a community school, the kids come from their homes to the school. They have to walk. The form of communication in the Kiwari Island, between Fangano Island, is the lake. There are no roads. The road which is there is pretty bad. So the only form of communication is motorbike or boats. They can't come to school using boats. So they have to walk. And some come from far. They have to come very early. So the challenge is that kids come to school very early in the morning. They break for lunch. That is from 1 to 2 o'clock. And then they come back 2 o'clock. They break for home at around 5 o'clock in the evening. The biggest critical issue here is food. Most kids, many kids actually, that we visited and we spoke to, come from either single families or are total orphans. AIDS, HIV, has ravaged the island to an extent that we have many homes where there are no parents. So the kids have to fend for themselves or together with their siblings. So it is very difficult for a kid who has to walk 1 kilometer away from the school to leave, to go back home between 1 and 2 o'clock. That is only 1 hour. Go cook, eat, and then come back to school. So that is a challenge. We have youngsters who are in baby class, nursery and pre-units. Kids of 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 5 years, who have not gone to Johnson at the 1. For them, they can't go back home and come back to the school. So they are fed in the school. They have to take breakfast, at least something at around 10 o'clock, and maybe take lunch. So there is critical need for a feeding program. Feeding program means where we get food that is cooked within the school and the kids eat in the school. That means we have to get the food itself, we have to get a kitchen, we have to get cooks, and then you have to get a store where at least you'll keep the food. And then, so the 300 kids that are in this school, at least there should be a proper feeding program. There are some kids from standard 5 to 8 who have to come back for preps in the evening. Now, it is important that at least when they come back to school in the evening, they are fed. So that the only thing that the kids need to do is to remain to study. So feeding program, shortage of infrastructure, shortage of teachers, and the most critical one is the feeding program. If kids can be spared the agony of going back home, either eating and come back to school late, or not even knowing what you're going to eat. Because some kids go back home, not because there is something to eat, but because it is lunch break, they can't remain in the school. But they go, maybe take water, and come back to school. As we have said, Mfangano is an island. The main food is fish. again, which is either not there or is very expensive. Other foodstuffs have to come from outside the island. So the challenge of even getting the food, even if the food was there, cooking it in time, that is a very, very big challenge. So those are the three key areas that there's been a problem. And if those can be sorted out, then that is okay. But even the kids, once they have come to school, they have studied, there are kids who pass, and they pass very well Standard 8. In the Kenya education system, Standard 8, the maximum that a kid can get out of the 5 examination papers is 500 marks. We have got kids who, in the past years, get between 350 and 400, and that is good pass. Take into consideration where the school is. Mfangani is an hardship area. Even for a kid to get 300 and 400 marks, that is that's a very good performance. But the problem comes after the kid has performed that well. There is no money to take this kid from Standard 8 to Form 1. In average, you need about 50,000 per year to take a child to a district school. You need about 80,000 per year to take that child to a provincial school or a mid-level school, high school, and you need 100,000 to take that kid to a government school or a high cadre school. So there are families that can hardly afford even 10,000 per year. So 50,000, 100,000, 80,000 is quite out of their reach. So we have kids who have had one, either to drop out of school because they have no money to take them forward, two, to repeat once or even twice, at least hoping that the next time they might get either money, the parents would have gotten money from somewhere, or a well-wisher or a sponsor that will come in and assist them. Some start Form 1, Form 2, Form 3, there's no money, they drop out. So that is another big challenge. And for girls, it's even more critical because in the local community, many parents, educating a girl is not a priority. Why? Because to many, girls are people who should eventually just go and get married and have babies. And girls are very brittle in the sense that vulnerable in the sense that, and this has happened many times. A girl is under the age, either they get pregnant or they just leave school, too much work at home, they sleep late, they wake up very early, most of the time they're fatigued, they're tired in class, they sleep in class. But there is a need to give these children hope in the sense that when you speak to them, they tell you of very good dreams. They want to be teachers, they want to be lawyers, they want to be doctors, they want to be lecturers. Like when we visited the island the other day, we had an occasion to talk to about 3 kids who had repeated. And they didn't repeat because they didn't do well, or they didn't repeat because they didn't want to go to secondary school. They repeated simply because they had no money to take them to Form 1. And yet, if you speak to them, they have beautiful dreams. What they need is hope. And what they need is a helping hand, or a ladder, stepping stone, somebody who can hold their hands and ensure that they go to the next level. As a community, we have tried. Personally, as the patron, we have come up with programs where we have tried to sponsor within the resources that we have, at least children who have done well, maybe for the first 3 kids. But as I say, many of us from the island, we are not gainfully employed outside, and the task cannot be done by one person or even 2 people. We are talking about 15, 16 children who need averagely 50,000. As a person, you cannot have 150,000 to take 3 kids to secondary school. So that's why we need that support that can come from within the island, within our country, or anywhere else in the world. And I am grateful to Yasha and to Mr. Colin for coming all the way from the US to Kenya to Mfangano and seeing firsthand, interacting with the children, speaking with the teachers, speaking with the parents, knowing firsthand what are the needs, what are the aspirations, what are the dreams, what are the hopes of these children. And if Yasha could partner with us, in a sense that we pull the resources that are available, that we can get, and ensure that at least one, there's a feeding program for in this school, and two, we can boost the infrastructure, and then three, needy kids who perform well at least have a hope of ensuring that they continue the education not only to secondary school but even to high school and to university, and eventually getting gainful employment and coming back to society, and also helping, being a ladder to those that are still behind. Because I believe that not only standard 8, but we also have kids standard 4, 5, 6, and 7, who in the next 3-4 years will be also reaching a level where they need somebody else to hold their hands and take them through. Not all kids need help. There are some that whose parents can afford to struggle. There are some that themselves they work during the holidays and raise some little coins here and there. But by and large, a big percentage of them, without somebody else coming in and holding their hands, they are totally unable to go forward.
Well, thank you very much. I think you can summarize now by just talking about the kids who repeated their class. I think that's a very inspiring thing to see a child go back to school just because he wants or she wants a better chance in life.
Now, I would say that this is a phenomenon that has been there every year. It's not only last year. At least when Mr. Colin came, we had a chance to talk to two who had sat for their KCPE, we call it KCPE, Kenya Certificate of Primary Education, exams in the year 2012. But this is a phenomenon that has been there probably from when the school started, or started doing exams in 98. That they are bright kids, perform well, but they don't go to the next level, as I'm saying. Now this year we have two boys who, one repeated at Kiwari Primary School, another one came from a neighboring school and now is a repeater at Kiwari Primary School. The constant thing with these two kids that they are both orphans. One has no father, one has no father and mother. One got 389 marks out of 500. The other one got 361. But because they didn't have money, they needed, when we spoke to them, they said they needed between 30 to 50,000 to take them to Form 1. But because of that lack of that money, they didn't manage to go to the next level. There was also a girl who was top in her class. In standard 8, she was the topmost girl. And this girl also, when we spoke to her, the story was the same. There is no hope that even if she was performing well, and she's been performing well, she's a 360, 380 student.
She's an orphan too.
And she's an orphan too. There was no hope that even if she was to pass, then she would go to to Form 1. Now, but they are there. And when you speak to them, these kids, one of them wanted to be a lecturer, another one wanted to be a doctor, and the girl wanted to be a police officer. Now, they have dreams, they have aspirations, they want to move on. And when you spoke to them, they promised to work hard. In fact, they promised to better the marks that they got the previous year in this year. So we are talking about kids who aim to get 400 plus. It will be a pity if such kids again either would have to repeat or would have to remain home or abandon school altogether because they can't afford to go to Form 1. So there is need, again as I said, for partnership, for pulling up together and ensuring at least these three kids, at the worst, they start secondary school. Once they start, The community is there, will see something, but if they can get a helping hand and they start and they continue. Because education in Kenya is expensive. When you talk about tuition, we are not talking about money for transport. We're not talking about money for personal effects, upkeep, and that has to be factored in. So when we are talking about 100, that is tuition. So when you factor in upkeep and maintenance, we're talking about more than 20,000, and that is not easy for a parent who relies on fishing, which again is not doing very well at the moment. So to wind up or to close, Kiwari's primary school is doing well academically. They are performing well. Their biggest challenge is a school called Gethsemane. Gethsemane is a private school which has got almost 100% sponsorship from US. And because of that, it is a private school and it's a boarding school where kids are fed, they are sleeping, they have things like power, they have water, they are next to the lake, there's water, there's power, there's food, there are book facilities, and yet this is the school that Kiwari is challenging and at times beating. Because last time we were number 1, they were number 2. So we need to encourage the youngsters in this school to maintain at least where they are, or even to better their percentage marks as a school collectively and also as individuals. And that can only be done when we as parents, we as the sons of the daughters of the island, and our well-wishers and our friends from within or without Kenya come together and assist. And the cry that the school made to Mr. Colin when he was there is that the sooner the better. There was that hope when he came in, there was that hope that something would be done. And he assured us that he will go and look into it, and there was no promise, but there was. We could sense that indeed he saw the sense and the need, and was willing to do something. So we thank you for the privilege and opportunity to talk to you. Thank you.